Hi guys, how are you all doing? Hope you all are doing great. This is Ajilam here. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, kindly subscribe and turn on the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. And for my returning subscribers, thank you so much. So in today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to make a one-sided paperback flower girl dress on a very low budget. So if you're interested, keep on watching. You'll be needing your organza, your satin or taffeta, whichever one you prefer to work with. You also need your lining and your applique, okay, and if you want to add a little hard net, you also need hard net. So here I have 3 yards of this is a floral organza. As you can see, this is 3 yards, and I'll be using these 3 yards for 1-year-old baby girl. So you can drop in the comment section how old is your baby. Maybe I can help you out in knowing how many yards you'll be needing to make this dress. So I'll be starting with the upper part because this dress is going to have a yoke. So we're going to start by drafting out the bodice parts. Alright, here as you can see on my pattern, I have the bodice length marked out. The bodice length is 7 inches, but I added 1 inch for my sewing allowance, making it 8. And this is the armhole line. So the next thing to do now, I am going to mark out the shoulder measurement, and I'll also bring it down here on the armhole, and then I'll come down by ½ an inch for my shoulder slope. I have a video on how to draft a basic body, so I'll rush this part. You can check out that video as well. I'll drop the link in the description box, so you check that out on step by step. That is on how to draft a basic body step by step. So for the neck width, I'll be making this 2 1/4, which is what I have here, and neck depth of 1 3/4, which is here. So I'm going to connect the points quickly. So here I just connected the points. The next thing is to determine the midpoint here. This is 3 1/4. The midpoint should be here, okay, or you can also fold your tape to get the midpoint. So on that point, I will go in by ½ an inch. Then I will now mark out the chest measurement, which is 20 divided by 4. That will give me 5. And then I'm going to add my ½ inch for my sewing allowance. The waist measurement, I'll be making it 20 as well. So 20 divided by 4 is 5. Okay. And then my ½ inch for sewing allowance. So I'll quickly connect the points. So here it is, the front basic bodice. Now to determine the yoke part, all I need to do is to go up by ½ an inch from this armhole line. If you like, you can also use this armhole line, but I want to go up by ½ an inch because I don't want this part to be too low. So this is ½ an inch. I'm going to connect from this midpoint now. Okay, this is the midpoint. I'm going to place my ruler that way and connect it to this point. Okay, so this is what I have. This part now is going to be the yoke part, while this is the other side. Like I said earlier, you can also choose to connect straight to this armhole line. That is if you want the yoke part to be very obvious. Okay, so this is for a little girl. I don't want it that obvious. So this is the front. This is how it's going to look. I am going to cut it out now. When you want to cut on your fabric on this part, make sure to add your sewing allowance. Alright, to the back pattern, this is my zipper allowance, and here I have my bodice length marked out. This is the armhole line. So I'm going to mark out the shoulder measurement. That is half of the shoulder measurement. It is 8 inches divided by 2, that is 4. I'll also bring the same thing here and then mark out, come down by ½ an inch, and I use 2 1/4 as the neck width. For the neck depth, I'm going to use ½ an inch for the neck depth. Okay, so I will just connect all the points. So this is it. I just repeated what I did in the front pattern. So this is the ½ inch that you go in, and I just mark out the chest and the waist measurement. So I'm going to connect the points now so that we can determine the back yoke as well. Alright, before we determine the back yoke, I am going to mark out ½ an inch here. I will go up by ½ an inch and then connect it straight to this points here. And the back pattern is ready. So for the back yoke, it's very easy. If you like, you can also come down. That is, if you want it that obvious, you can just come down by 1 inch from this armhole line. But for me, I don't want it too obvious, so I'll just connect it straight on this armhole line. Okay, so this part now is the yoke part, and this is the other part of the back pattern. So now I'm going to cut this out and place on my fabric so that we can start the sewing part. Lower part here, I have my 3 yards. I'm going to cut this 1 yard each so that I will have them separately. So I'm going to cut 1 yard each until I have my 3 pieces, and then I'm going to fold using the 360-degree method. So here I have 2 pieces of that folded into 4. Remember, I cut out 3 pieces of that. I just divided the 3 yards. This is one. Now this is the one I'll be using to make that is the paper bag effect. We're going to use this one. So now, as you can see, I just folded it. This part is open and this other side is closed. So now the next thing to do is to mark out the length. So here the length is 11.5. So I'm going to mark out the length first from this part that is shorter. So this is 11.5, and as you can see, that is the end of my fabric. That is 11.5. I'm going to mark here. Then I will check what I have from here to this point. So from here now I have 4 3/4. I'm going to mark that out all around. Okay, keep on rotating until you mark that out, and then I'll cut it off. You know, this one we are going to gather it a little. It's not just the straight flay. I'll just gather this part very small. Okay, so now I am going to cut this off. Then I'll mark this the length and also cut before we now cut the remaining layer. So now let me just go ahead and cut so we can continue. Alright, so now I'm going to continue marking out the length. When I finish, I will now cut it off. This is 11.5 here. The 2 cut out. I'm going to open up one side. That is going to be the zipper part. So I'll just open one side, and be careful when you're doing this part so that you don't end up cutting out the 2. Okay, so I'll cut this off as well. And then I'm going to place the other layer. So this is the remaining layer, and I just folded it as well into 4. Okay, so now I am going to mark out the length that I'll be using for this part. Is I'm going to add 2 inches to the initial length. That is the lower part. Now the other 2 I used 11.5, so I'm going to add 2 inches to that. That will be 13.5. So I'm going to mark out 13.5 as the length for this layer. You know, this part is going to be one side, so I'll mark out the length 13.5 and then connect it to this other end, while the radius I'll be using now is 2, and that is, you need to divide the 4 3/4 that we use as the radius for the other 2. You divide that into 2 because this is just one side. So whatever that gives you, that is what we're going to mark out here as your radius. So now let me just mark out the length first. So here I have my 13.5 cut out. So I'm going to cut off this, and then I'll open it up as well. Now you can see that this is just one-sided. So I'll just open it up here, and then I am going to gather this particular one. I'll gather it separately. I will not gather it together with this other two. So I'll just gather this separately, then gather the other two together before we'll now join it to this one. Everything cut out, and I'm going to start with this net. So I'll start by sewing the neckline. This is the back. I'm going to take the one I'll be using as interfacing and then place it together and sew the neckline, and I'll also repeat the same with the front one. So here it is. After sewing the neckline, you just give it a good press. This is the one for the front, and this is the one for the back. So I will start with the front. I'm going to take the other one that will cut out for the front. This is it. I am using satin because this is transparent. So I'm going to go ahead now and pin this all around, and then I'm going to place this on top of this. Okay, you're going to note the center point and make sure that it matches with the center point of this one. So I'm going to place it right there now, and then sew it this way, and also turn it and sew it this other way. So this is it after joining it together. Now you can see how it is. Okay, so at this point I'm going to take my lining and also place it right here. This is the front lining. I'm going to place it here now and also follow that same way, or better still, you can place making sure that the center point is on this one. You can place it together and then sew this way and also sew this other side, and then you turn it to the back and give it a good press. So I'm going to repeat the same for this back that we have here before we'll now join it with the lower part. So after sewing it, this is what I have. Okay, and then I will now turn it and give it a good press. So I'm going to repeat whatever I did here is what I'm going to repeat to the back, and then I'll close the side, the shoulder and the sides together. For this dress I'm going to add a little sleeve. Okay, so that is why I use this method with the yoke. But if you don't want to add a sleeve, I have other videos on how to go about making a yoke and then having a neat finishing, and I will also drop the link in the description box. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and join the shoulder and the sides so that we can finish up the lower part. So after joining the shoulder and the sides, this is it. Okay, this is how the back looks. Now I'm going to keep this aside and take the ones that will cut out for the lower parts. Now this is the first two that I said that we're going to gather. You use your gather stitch and sew, and then pull it till you have your waist measurement. And this one is the one that is the that has the highest length. Okay, this one was I think 11.5 inches, while this is 13.5. I added extra 2 inches because I want to use that 2 inches to create the side paper bag effect to this dress. Okay, so I'm going to take this now. This is the one that is separate. I'm going to open it up, and then I will just give it a curve, you know, just to give it that slant curve. Okay, let me turn it this other way. Okay, there's nothing much to this. You just, if you like, you can also use your chalk and mark so that you don't end up making any mistake. You just give it that slight slant curve. So this is the curve there. Now I am going to take this to my weaving, or if you have your serger, you can use and make this part to be neat. So this one is ready. I am going to use my gather stitch around this as well, and I'm going to pull all till I have the waist measurement. All right, this is it. I just gathered to the waist measurement I am working with. So here I have 23 inches, and here also, that is the one that is separate, I also gathered the waist area. So now I have a long strip here which I'll be using as my satin. Okay, so this is I just multiply the waist measurement by 2, and here I have 46. Okay, this is 46, and the length is that is the lower part. The length that we're working with is 11 inches, and I have exactly 11 inches here. Okay, so that by the time I fold the hem part, it's going to be like 10 or 9.5. You know, your satin and your net or your organza is not supposed to be the same. It's not supposed to be coming out, so I will just reduce. The satin should be 1 inch shorter than the main fabric that you're working with. So I'm going to take this as well and use my gather stitch to run it, and I'm going to join these two panels here which I've gathered already. I'm going to join it together with the satin. So this is what I have after joining it with my satin. Now you can see this is the inside and this is the front side. So I'm going to join it with the upper part now. Okay, this is the upper part. I'm going to join it together. So after joining it, this is how it looks. Okay, and we're almost done with this dress. So I'm going to take this part now and note the center point. That is where I'll be placing it, but if you don't want it to be in the center front, you can just place it anywhere you prefer it to be. So I'm going to place it there now, and I'm going to sew on this 2 inches line that I have here. So I'll just sew on it until I get to this end. So here it is. As you can see, I just did the sewing and I left this part because I'm going to use my weaving machine to close up this part and also this other side. I gave it this slant curve on both sides. Okay, so now this is how it is, and you know you're going to sew exactly on this waistline following the inches that we left here. Okay, so and the dress is almost done. It's just to add your lining and the sleeve and you're good to go. So that is it for today. Please subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you all soon.